coming to you raw and unscripted. Beaming across Ontario and beyond to places like Friday Harbour, Lawrence Park, Florida, and Smith Falls. This is the Real Hickson Real Estate Podcast. Whether you're listening on your commute or putting on your suit, whether it's your morning stroll or you're on patrol, you just finished prayer or dropped the kids at daycare, you're in the bar, your car, or listening with the bathroom door ajar, near or far, this is the Jess and Giro Show. We're grateful for flattery and prone to inaccuracies. This is your guide to Toronto culture, people, events, news, but most importantly, real estate talk. Yes, hello folks, and if you're going to be watching this on social media,
if you're lucky.
We're here at the podcast, and this time we're in the office and we're doing some more content stuff. You're going to see this stuff all over social media, TikTok and Instagram.
Get sick of looking at us.
But hello and happy summer, guys. I hope everyone's having a fantastic summer out there.
Yeah.
Having a good time.
It's hot.
It's just myself and Jess today, which is never a bad thing. Jess is my favorite guest.
It's been a while too, actually.
It's been a little while. I did it solo with my sister last time. Fantastic episode that we did. We have, a few more lined up for the next few months. But what we are doing today, Jessica, it's called Express Advice. Express Advice. We're going to start doing these more because we like to do the concepts. Mm-hmm. We always open even the concept episodes with, how the market is going. Most of the time.
Yeah.
But I think this is fun to do. Just express advice. Okay, I'm in this position. What would you suggest if I was in this? You just get straight to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We're not wasting anybody's time.
No, we're never wasting time.
No.
It's always time well spent. That's why we keep doing this. And we love hearing from people that say, just listen to your episode, love it, keep it up. It's so nice.
Yeah.
And if you are listening to this, just shoot us a message. We sometimes get them. It's nice.
Yeah, and thank you.
And thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, so we are quarter three. We're staring down the barrel of quarter three, 2024.
Crazy.
I guess I should try looking to the camera a little bit more.
Yeah.
Basically, we're going to go through from top to bottom, each position, because this is just a one big what's happening in the market, essentially. Because we usually glaze over it, generally speaking. Mm-hmm. We don't usually dive into each position someone might be in and what the best advice would be for that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here we are, Hickson Real Estate Team.
Answer some questions.
Oh, we're going to answer all the questions.
Yeah, okay.
We have people reaching out. We just did our start of third quarter HERs, as I like to call them. It's the fun acronym for Home Evaluation Report. If you are listening to this, there's a chance you might still get one. Because, I do a whole bunch of them for all my clients 2 or 3 times a year, or 3 to 4 times, I'd like to say. And just to give them an idea of what the home is currently going for, for better or for worse. It's super important to understand, your best asset and where you're at.
For sure.
And so if you listen to this and you just catch me at the end of my little scenario here, maybe I can do one for you if I haven't done one for you yet. Okay, so let's jump into it. Best advice, Jess. We're going to start from the bottom and work our way up.
Okay. The
renters, the tenants.
Okay, that's a tough one, of course. It's getting more competitive. It's getting more active. There is inventory for sure, but
so we're always looking at the GTA and the downtown core as the hotspot for activity. I think in more recent years, as we've had a lot more new Canadians come, they don't mind the idea of living further out, especially because it's a little bit cheaper. You get a little bit more bang for your buck.
Yeah, and when it's families, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
The downtown core, 1 bedroom, 1+ den, those are hot.
Yeah, the studios, if they still exist. I mean, they're still building them.
Yeah, those are, the entry level, and those are the ones that are competitive.
Yeah.
And they're active.
In saying that as well, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms have been heating up. I mean, there's usually less of them in each condo building. I always advise, and this is a good segue to talk about the newsletter. And by the way, all of these points that we're making, I do this every single month for my clients. If you want to be a part of that, just let me know, hicksonrealestateteam@gmail.com, or just reach out to me in social media, however you want to do it. But we're literally giving these updates every month anyways, via newsletter form. And we go through each of these. A lot of my clients I've been advising to go back to the point, is taking yourself out of one bedroom, moving to a 2-bedroom with a family member or a friend or someone that you trust and you're happy to live with. Of course, there's a risk associated with that. What if they flake? Or, there's a number of things that can happen. But in terms of being efficient with your money, we're talking $3,000 on the higher end, maybe $3,500. That's $1,750 per person.
Yeah, as opposed to like $2,400 for a one-bedroom. Yeah.
So that's super good advice for tenants. Consider taking the hit. And listen, it's not forever. It's just for now. Maybe you do it for a couple of years, maybe a few years. In that time, you could be saving $200, $300, $400, $500 a month.
Really adds up.
And it really adds up. The most demand for renters I've been finding is houses. And of course, the downtown core. But, again, further out in the GTA, a lot more people are a lot more open to moving out there.
Yeah, more space, a little bit better prices.
Yeah, especially with, they're making upgrades. Just for an example, us living in Maple, they're making an upgrade to that GO line. So now we're going to have, instead of getting a gap window of trains in the afternoon where it's only going north because it's a commuter train, now we're going to have service run back and forth. It's going to become a lot more convenient for people living out in those suburbs. Yeah, and that train goes
up to Barrie, so that's a lot of areas
and
it's going to affect.
35 minutes from Maple to Union. 35 minutes, that's nothing in commuter time. It'd take you twice that to drive. Or triple that on a bad day.
Pack a bag.
So generally speaking, prices have dropped since the summer of last year, but we are trending back up.
Yeah, for entry level, for sure.
Yeah.
Like you don't see under like 2,100 now.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about the flip side of this. Okay, landlords. What are landlords expecting, or what can they expect right now?
More activity on their listings, I think, especially compared to like earlier this year.
Yeah, it obviously naturally seasonally drops off.
Summer is
around
when most
December
people
and the winter.
Yeah. Summer is more desirable for
also
moving.
Just naturally, the university, the schooling years that will end in spring and pick back up late summer again.
Yeah.
International students, stuff like that, people moving around.
Landlords can be a little bit more picky with who they're letting into their units now. And as we've suggested before, you have to be so diligent with who you're allowing in, like all the paperwork and everything before. There are some issues with people forging documentation.
Yeah, it's not something that we're proud to talk about, but it's just the reality. And now when we work for landlords, it's something that we have to really consider. And that is falsifying documents. There are people, services off the books, obviously, that do this for people now. So you have to be extra careful.
Yeah.
We're very prudent in going through each and every single bit. We're not just, we're just trying to rent it. No, we have to be serious about it.
Yeah, and landlords can be more discerning because they're not like desperate, because they know tomorrow you'll get somebody else. It's not like you have to just take the first person who comes.
Exactly. Multiple offers on some of these properties. And it's not usually anything personal. It's just a matter of we have to protect the landlords.
Yeah, you want to make sure someone has good credit, has been in their job for a significant amount of time.
And this is like when we're taking tenants to places and they fall in love with something, and maybe it doesn't rent to them, maybe someone else gets it, or they just don't rent at all. A lot of people can take that like personally, but at the end of the day, tenants have a ton of rights and responsibilities. Of course, landlords have rights and responsibilities too. But at the end of the day, they're just being careful and just trying to protect themselves. So it's never usually anything personal. But staying prudent. At the end of the day, for landlords, we have a bigger tenant pool now, which is nicer, more credible tenants coming through.
But in that being said, there is more newcomers to Canada than ever. So it doesn't mean every single new tenant is like the ideal tenant.
Exactly.
Like you have to understand that it's a lot of newcomers. Yeah,
I think it depends on the area. It depends on the demand, what kind of property you have. Again, a home, there's a little bit more risk associated with renting out an entire home, for example, versus say like a condo where, the condo takes care of a lot more stuff mechanically and structurally and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider. But at the end of the day, like landlords, obviously prices are high because of these interest rates. But I mean, hey, if you get someone in there at a historically high rental rate and you're on a variable that's dropping, or even you renew your mortgage and that rate is dropping, it's just going to get easier and easier.
Yeah, you may cost a little at the beginning, but in the long run.
Maybe you have a basement that, okay, of course you love it, you use it, but maybe consider, hey, you know what would be great? For the next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it might be, you could convert it if it's not already converted and use it to as a mortgage helper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything helps.
Of course, like there's always risks associated with these things, and we're here. Our job is to mitigate that risk and try and protect you as a landlord.
For sure.
Okay, let's move on to first home buyers, Jess.
That's an exciting one.
Jess, it is so super exciting. The prices, we're in a low price cycle.
Yeah. The rates are high. That's what's holding buyers back at the end of it all.
Yeah, of course. And the purchase power. But again, what time frame, what terms are you getting this mortgage on? Of course, there's buying power, the amount of mortgage that you can afford. And that's usually the main factor.
Yeah.
But given that you can afford it, we're looking at high rates. Yes, the repayments suck, the interest is a little crummy, but we're talking like 1 year, 2, 3 year terms.
Yeah. It's short-term pain for long-term gain.
There you go. I love that. We should put that on a t-shirt or something.
Sure, for sure.
And of course, what do we always say? Marry the price and date the rate.
Yeah.
Right, guys? Super, super important. Here's the funny thing. It's very easy to read the news, from whoever, and it feels like it's a crummy market.
Yeah, the numbers don't paint the whole picture.
No. And, obviously the main headline right now is buyers are tentative and, we're the whole interest rate thing. But why do we have to associate a slow market, a down market, with a bad market? Why do we have to wait for it to get really crazy hot for us to be like, oh yeah, the market's great? Like, who's the market great for? Sure, if you're trying to sell.
For a seller, yeah.
For sure. Yeah, of course.
But the seller has to buy.
The seller still has to buy and sell in the same market.
Yeah. Most of the time.
Most of the time. And there are people that obviously bought in the peak in 2022 spring, or a little bit before, or a little bit after. But essentially, now is a fantastic time for buyers.
Yeah.
Not only for the low price cycle, because you have nothing to sell, okay? You're a rental, you obviously have to think about timing, 60 days notice, whatever that may be. Maybe your landlord's like, hey, I'll even give you a break. You have to move out in maybe 30 days if that works for you on the buying end, because I can rent it right now. Like, the market's really hot.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to work out with your landlord. Hopefully you and your landlord have a good relationship, and that's why it's always so important for these things. But essentially, if you time it right, there are plenty of opportunities out now for first-time home buyers.
Yeah, and you have time on your side. You don't have to, the second something comes out, you don't have to make a decision about. Maybe you get a chance to bring your parents to the showing.
Why don't you show the property 2 or even 3 times? That's the liberties that you have right now.
Yeah.
That's the other opportunity, not just price opportunity, but you have the chance to shop around.
It's not gone 4 hours after it hit the market.
I don't think that's a good market for anyone.
No.
When things are flying off the shelf, apart from if you're a downsizer. If you're looking to cash all in, and we'll get to downsizers in a bit, if you're looking to cash all in and sell at the absolute peak, that is optimum. But for everyone else that is either buying and selling the same market, it's just not great.
No, we like a balanced market in this.
We like a balanced market.
In this team.
It's very important. It's important. So yeah, as we said, low price cycle, you have the time to go check it out. Bring your parents around. There's not multiple offers. Well, there's multiple offers on a few properties here and there.
Yeah, but not in the same way.
Depending on the price strategy, how things are going.
Yeah. Perfect homes.
Yeah. And by the way, little things like conditions. You can have all the conditions you want, right? You can have the inspection if you want it. Obviously status is usually, in super hot markets, you'll usually get a status before offering anyways, but you have the time to go through the status. Yeah. And of course the financing as well. Yeah. You get those conditional days, and that's a nice protection for buyers. And I think it's good in the long run for sellers as well, because if you didn't have those conditions, you might not find out that there's issues with the sale until you get close to closing, and no one wants to hear about that stuff.
Once it's too late.
Yeah. So there are plenty of opportunities in that regard. it's that whole, the main concept is why are people waiting? Because, the market seems like it's bad and the market seems like it's slow and there's like negative press. People's fear is like, I don't want to overpay. Which is completely reasonable. But here's the thing about overpaying. You really don't know if you're overpaying until you sell at like a bad time or under duress or you're forced to sell.
Yeah.
Like people have definitely bought in the last couple of years where it's, the house is not valued as much as when they bought it.
Yeah.
But as long as they don't sell it right now, they're fine.
Yeah.
Chances are those people got a good interest rate anyways.
Hopefully.
Essentially. So, the fear of overpaying, it makes sense. We get it. There's the idea of the appraisals. And again, you get those financing conditions days. If you were to buy something and it's sold conditionally and you have the appraisers come in and you know that you have that time to figure out your finances and do the due diligence, then you're good to go. You're gold and you're sold, right?
You're gold and you're sold.
You're gold and you're sold.
Spoken like a true real estate agent.
But what's the flip side, Jess? The fear of overpaying. What is the, equal, every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction.
Fear of missing out.
The fear of missing out. And this is really what drove some of the markets in the last few years. Understandably, in my opinion, things were undervalued and they had blown up. Obviously investors coming as well. There's a few different key factors there. Money was cheap, like borrowing money was cheap.
Yeah.
Essentially. But this is always going to be the two factors. And what happens? In a month, 2 months, we get closer to fall when we expect the market to pick up. And what's going to happen? Oh, this place sold. Oh, that place sold over asking.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the next place is going to sell over asking on that. And within a span of 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks,
Things
sometimes
really change.
Yeah. And I'm always saying this, it sometimes takes a good 3 to 6 months, even a year for prices to really come down, depending on the pain point for a seller potentially and what their individual situation may be, like breaking even or making a little bit of profit or maybe selling for a loss. But it only takes 1, 2 weeks, a month for things to really flip around and start going the other direction.
Yeah, and with positive news with the rates, people start thinking it's just going to get better.
That's all it takes.
Hopefully.
The positive, you just said it, positive news.
Yeah.
So that's something to really consider. Now, in the next breath, upgraders, okay? People that are upgrading. Similar kind of boat. Why is it different? Well, as we mentioned before, you have to buy and sell in the same market. Okay, so that's something to consider. Now, we had a few clients at the start of the year that were able to, because February, March was like pretty hot, depending on the market. It's like kind of slowed.
Yeah, since that.
Since then.
There was a flurry of activity.
And a few people were lucky. We were able to get them to buy first, which was in that January low end. Things have come up actually a little bit since then. But then they were able to sell as well, which that's always a risk. It depends on the market.
Yeah, we're seeing right now.
Right now, generally speaking, across most markets, it would just be the smartest thing to do is to sell first.
A safer bet.
And it's nicer, it really depends on your timeline. Are you in a rush to move? Because if you think about it, if you were to sell and take a little bit of a hit right now, what you're buying, especially if you're upgrading, as we're saying here, it's relatively cheaper.
Yep.
So you're actually, okay, so you sold for maybe $35,000 less than maybe you could have in March, for example, right?
But when you go to buy,
it's now $100,000 cheaper. At the end of the day, what's ending up in your pocket?
Yeah, it's the bottom line.
It's the bottom line. So that's the kind of takeaway for upgraders right now. A huge thing is especially if you're in a condo or even a condo townhouse, you're getting away from those maintenance fees. And when we're talking about purchase price, getting approval with the mortgage agents, we're talking about, what are you able to carry and afford? And that's what they're all looking at as well. If he was to go and look at, or she was going to look at this condo, they take into account these maintenance fees, for example.
Yeah. And
so if you're able to get away from that, you might actually be able to afford the same, a little bit more, maybe $100,000, $200,000 more, using the same amount that you're paying every month.
Yeah.
That $500 or $600, $700 that you're paying in maintenance fees, that's buying power.
Yeah.
For a bigger mortgage.
100%.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, maintenance fees rarely ever go down. Yeah. They increase a little bit year over year, every couple of years. but your interest rates, the way that things are trending, will go down.
Yeah.
Your repayments will get cheaper. So that's a huge takeaway kind of for upgraders. Again, you have these other luxuries. Time to look. Because obviously when you're selling your place and you're getting something else, you have the opportunity to figure out what you do want.
Yeah, you're more specific what you're looking for.
Yeah. You don't have to settle for anything. Let's flip it. Let's go to the hottest market. Oh my God, the highest sale ever in this condo. That condo sold for $730, and my condo is going to sell for $760. Fantastic. What does the buy side look like? Because that's super competitive. Oh, we sold, and then we only had like 2 months to look, or like 45 days, 30 days to look, and we got really tied up, and something happened with work, and I wasn't. Whatever it is, and you run out of time, maybe, and you end up like settling for something that you didn't want.
Yeah, which is not ideal.
Again, you have the time. You can do an inspection. Like, inspection is not really necessary in a condo. You look into the status certificate. Maybe you want to do an inspection, but buying like a house from the 1980s or maybe from the 60s. There's a few question marks around like how this works or how updated this might be. And you have an inspector, you have that time, you have that condition in. Oh, great, I got the price I wanted, great. Let's make sure what we're buying is not a lemon, basically. Going in and again, like figuring out the finances and all that kind of stuff. So huge advantages there.
Yeah.
Of course, you need a savvy agent like ourselves to really be looking at more than just the sale of the home. I think a lot of people will get wrapped up in, like the commission, whatever it is, or no, let's look at the broader picture and let's actually look at the bottom line. Because if you have, not to talk down of any agents, but if you have an agent that's just looking to get it sold quickly and will just, I'll drop my commission and I'll get it sold quickly, that's great. But like, are you maximizing the value of that home?
Yeah, which is important for your next step because you need to get as much out of your investment to move on to the next.
But if they're doing it on your home, what are they going to do on the buy side? Maybe they'll just try and get the deal done quickly. You know what I'm saying? And they won't really try and negotiate for you, and you can save that money. That money's saved right there. So it's something to consider. It's not to toot our own horn, but we're looking holistically at the whole point. Okay, so let's move on to new build or new construction. This is an interesting point of contention.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
This is a tough one. The way that the new builds and new construction, whether it be condo or townhouses, detached, that's a whole nother conversation, essentially. But, these projections that these builders had for these prices, it's now coming to a head.
Especially in the height.
And, in some rare cases, some builders are actually canceling projects, unfortunately. Yeah. There are some risks that are associated with pre-construction, new construction. And it's just something to think about. One big point of contention right now is appraisals. People who bought pre-construction in the peak, and there was these huge projections of 1,600 a square foot, 1,400 a square foot. Well, I can tell you that resale right now is anywhere between, at the low end, like $900 a square foot, up to like $1,000 a square foot, depending on the area and how new it is, $1,100, $1,200 a square foot in the peak, I'd think.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just something to really, really think about. On the flip side, we're now starting to see a lot more incentives.
Yeah.
And builders and developers are pivoting. Okay. So I believe there are some opportunities there, but it's important to be due diligent. Whenever we're going through this, we're going through the builders' projects, their other projects, how they panned out, and you can look at a history of a developer, history of a builder. Are they the big guys? We know who the big guys are. We know who the guys that we like. And of course, it comes down to incentives and stuff for buyers as well.
Yeah, and if you don't have all the money today, but you have a little bit and you want to think of something for 3 years from now, 4 years from now, you want to hold on until the mortgage rates are better, then pre-construction is possibly an opportunity for you.
So that's a really good point. Generally, I would say it's a good opportunity, number one, if the price is right, of course. Or maybe it's a really nice project, or it's in an area you'd really like to see a new thing go in. But importantly, to Jess's point, you don't have to get a mortgage right now. You could put down a $5,000 deposit. Each construction situation has its own timelines and payment schedules. And of course, it's gonna be very different.
But maybe like in a year from now, you'd be able to get another 5%. And
yeah, you could do 5,000 now, and like they want a 1% in like 60 days, and then another 1% in like 90 days.
Not 1%. But
well, you know what I mean. Just as an example, like 5%
say
here and
5%
5%.
at a time. Yeah. By the time it closes,
spread.
you have more time to get the deposit in.
Yeah, if it's a primary residence, that 20% or less if you wanted to. Obviously, for investors, it's minimum 20%, but you could spread that payment schedule out, knowing that you can't necessarily get a mortgage right now, but you do have some cash to put down into a situation.
Or you don't want to lock in a mortgage right now, and you'd rather see how it's going to look in a few years from now. It may be a bit of a nicer rate.
Exactly. So that moves us on to assignments. This is the one other thing. In the same vein as like pre-construction, new construction, assignments, and we've talked about this before, generally someone's already purchased the project. They have the piece of paper in their hand. Again, they don't have to get a mortgage yet. Wherever they are in the payment structure timeline, they've paid up this certain amount of deposits. Maybe they're looking to get out for whatever reason. You can buy that piece of paper from them. Generally, it's been like good investment for some people. Now some people, there's a pain point for these people, and some people are starting to lose money based on the new valuation of, as we said, these like larger projections are coming in less. They get close to closing, they don't maybe have the money to close. But maybe you do. And that's where you wanted it. You like the look of the building, and you can see the progression that it's had, essentially.
And you can close quickly, usually.
Yeah, and you can go through the due diligence with the builder, and there are opportunities out there. Of course, that's another large conversation.
Very large.
Very large.
We can specifically talk
Jess
about it.
Jess has given me eyes. Like, it's controversial.
It's not as simple as a conversation on a podcast.
No, it's definitely not. And we want to impress upon you that each situation is very, very different. And of course, there's things we have to go through lawyers.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff, the legalities of these things.
It may not be possible.
It may not be possible.
It's very difficult.
Very difficult. But again, there may be some opportunities there for buyers. Okay, so who do we have last on the list, Jess?
Downsizers.
The downsizers. This one's, a little bit more straightforward, although it is, always going to be nuanced. Right now, what would you be saying to downsizers?
It would depend on your situation. If you do not need to sell today, I don't think you should.
I would be waiting on a better market for it. Now, there's an asterisk to that because, again, just like we said, when you go to upgrade, like, what are you going to do with the money? There are some people that would just sell their condo or whatever and like, I'm going to rent for 2 years. But you could easily get bought out of the market in that time. It's always a risk. That's why buying and selling in the same market is always the best idea, at least within a few months of each other, because then you can predict it a little better. Okay. But when it comes to downsizing, again, you have to think, what am I going to do with this money? Are you just cashing out? Is the money just sitting in the bank?
Yeah, that's the conversation.
If that's the case, you want to, set yourself up for retirement,
Hold
maybe
on
some
for as long
investments or whatever it is. If that's the case, I would probably wait until you get a bit more of a frenzied market. You might be taking a hit for no good reason right now.
It depends on where you're buying. If you're buying hours away.
Yeah, I mean, if you're downsizing...
There's so many factors.
If you're downsizing and like moving into a condo, obviously that's another factor because the condo market's quite soft.
Yeah.
But if you're just like selling the house and you're, moving in with someone else or into the kids' in-law suite in their place, there has to be a plan for the money. And in saying that, good segue.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic. My own segues is, are you passing this money on to the next generation?
For them to make real estate moves. Then obviously it makes more sense to get your money out.
Yeah. Now would be a fantastic time. If your kid's like, oh, we're going to buy this place, this semi, and it has a separate basement apartment or a little garden suite that you're going to live in, makes complete sense right now. But if you're just cashing out, I would be waiting.
Yeah, you want to get as much out of your investment as possible.
Yeah, because you only have a few chances to be growing this equity and actually liquefying the equity. Does that make sense? Like if you would upgrade and prices have really gone up, all of a sudden you're unlocking that equity, right? but there's only a few chances. It depends how many stepping stones that you jump across along the way to get to your dream place. But of course, the dream house is never forever, as we're saying.
Yeah.
The downsizers,
as well.
Plenty of $15 million huge mansions on giant acreages. They sell, every month as well.
Yeah, for sure.
People move on from those as well.
But your segue, you didn't really get into your segue.
Well, the segue was the estate planning,
which is a conversation we're going to be having at the end of this month.
So, as another segue, the next pod, it's a segue within a segue. Our next podcast is going to be focusing on this very, very topic. And it's huge and it's a growing topic.
As the population is aging.
The boomers are coming into the retirement phase and beyond. And we're talking about, the economists are talking about the largest transfer of wealth from the boomers to the millennials and beyond. And, obviously, when you're downsizing, that's an opportunity to pass that wealth on then and help out the next generations. Maybe they buy your house, whatever it might be. But, on the other side of that, the flip side of that, we're talking like, power of attorneys and estate sales, essentially. And we're going to have our manager on the podcast. Again, he was fantastic last time. And we're going to be going through all the different kind of scenarios that people may be encountering. Definitely Jess and myself as agents, especially in some of the older areas, we're coming across that a lot more.
You have to really be smart about it because there are many factors. There's family members involved. Like it gets a little bit more.
Of course, like it's just, knowledge is power. It's important to just know. And like we're always saying for anybody, whether you're a renter or a first-time home buyer, whoever, it's important to plan. And I think that's like where our focus is generally these days is the holistic approach.
Yeah.
It's just selling or buying something doesn't really mean much until you put it in context of what kind of lifestyle do you want and like where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah.
Again, like some people getting caught out even since 2020 in the pandemic where they made these future decisions that didn't really have a lot of future prediction or foresight. Of course, it's impossible
to know. But, back in the day, people would buy their house and they would live in their house for 50 years. Now people move more, life changes, things happen.
Quicker decisions.
Yeah.
I think in anything, really.
Now it's like a 3 to 5 year decision instead of a 20-year decision.
Yeah. But, that's going to be coming up at the end of the month. So tune in for that. Jess, I know we said express. We're at like 35 minutes.
Well, you talk a lot, man.
Yeah, but there's a lot to talk about. And we want to try and cover everyone as we possibly can.
Yeah. Hopefully you had a nice walk, a 35-minute walk.
Or as the intro suggests, you're in the car, the bathroom door ajar.
Right. Picking your kids up from school.
Yeah, that's it.
All of the things.
I'm glad you know the intro, Jess.
Of course.
Because it's actually daycare.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yep. That's just because it rhymed. But it's the same idea. Okay, guys. Is there any final words you want to say, Jess?
Just enjoy the summer. And if you need help with your real estate needs, we're here.
And just remember the main takeaway, whatever you read in the news articles, just come to us to contextualize it.
Yeah, we can.
Is it a bad time? Is it a terrible market? Depends on who you're asking.
And what you're doing.
Exactly. I think that's the main takeaway. Thanks again, guys. We're going to wrap it up there. Hopefully you enjoyed this express advice for the start of Q3 2024. We will have more of these, maybe like once a quarter. Maybe that's what we'll do.
Yeah, a good check-in.
Yeah. And again, if you want to get my monthly newsletter, no, it's not spam. It has a lot of stuff, and no, it's not AI written. I literally handwrite every single bit. It has like bits of news articles, like our listings, what we just sold, that kind of stuff as well. But for the most part, like really a lot of good advice, good value.
For sure.
And it can be yours for the low price of nothing. All you have to do, email us, hicksonrealestateteam@gmail.com, or like shoot us out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Yeah, you know it, Jess.
Of course.
Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks. Bye.